Hello and welcome to the CAFMA Connect. My name is Scott Freitag. Let me start that over again. We're going to cut the first part of that because I already forgot. Hi and welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Fire Chief Scott Freitag, and with me today are two very special guests. And as a matter of fact, this was probably, I'd put it on Firefighter Zach, his idea, because since we started the podcast, every time I brought somebody else in, there were little tears. Did you see him, Leslie?
Yeah.
Yes, I've been dying to be on this podcast.
I know.
Yeah,
and
tears of joy.
Tears of joy. And I know Leslie's here as your security.
Yes, my bodyguard. Thanks, Leslie, for being here.
She's here to make you feel better and calm down.
Yes.
So, really, this week, so we're looking for new firefighters, right? We've got the application process open. We're accepting apps now. We have about 6 or 7 positions open. Hopefully, it'll hold steady at that number, not increase anymore. But I really wanted to get something out there that we could put out that would kind of promote what's it like being a firefighter and what's it like being a firefighter here. And more importantly, for the two of you, I think the last thing I want to touch on will be, what is it that you look for in a new firefighter? Because it's you that's going to work with these people in the fire stations, right? So first and foremost, let's start with introductions. Leslie?
Yeah. My name's Leslie. I'm assuming you want to know where I came from.
Yep, where you came from. Give us some background.
So I was born in New York, upstate New York. I lived there until I was about 8 years old, and my family moved to Michigan for a couple of years. And then after that, I moved here to Arizona, grew up in Sedona. After high school, moved to the Valley, got my 4-year college education, and after I got that in business administration.
Okay.
And then after that, I started my EMT course. Sorry, I'm actually really nervous.
Oh, no, you're fine.
I'm totally
you're doing
screwing
great.
this up.
No.
So I did my EMT course.
Okay.
And so just kept going to school. I met a couple of mentors who got me into the fire service.
Okay.
And I did a couple of ride-alongs, and then it didn't take long for me to know that this is the career that I wanted to go down. So.
Awesome. Well, what got you interested in it enough to go to EMT school?
Just being around. I had a couple of friends that were becoming firefighters, so I got my bachelor's in business, started looking, at some of the job descriptions online, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of boring to me.
Right.
I want to be more physical. In the past, I had thought about going into the military.
Okay.
And just could never really pick a branch. Knew I wanted an education, so that's why I kind of stuck with that route.
Okay.
And then, so when the fire service was introduced to me, it was kind of an eye-opener, because at the time I didn't see a lot of females in the service. Okay. So they were actually females that had turned me on to the idea of it. So
awesome.
Getting my EMT was kind of the stepping stone as to whether I was going to go full on down this path or not. So I did my EMT, loved the medical side of everything, loved it so much that I wanted to become a paramedic, and just kept hammering away at becoming a firefighter in the same process. And then,
So where were you before here? I know you were with another agency.
Yeah, so I worked in the Valley for Buckeye Valley Fire District, and I worked for Superstition Fire as well as a civilian paramedic.
Okay.
And then I was an EMT with Lifeline Ambulance as well in the Valley.
Because I know when you went through the process, I had received a phone call before you tested. And they said, hey, we've got someone that's coming through your testing process. She's fantastic. You guys really need to take a close look at her. So you came highly recommended. I know you talked about being active. I know you're very active outdoors and athletics and hiking, and we see that all the time, which is great. And the good thing about the fact that you do have your degree is that most fire service agencies today, to move up in the organizations, are looking for a 2-year or 4-year degree, which is going to open up a lot more opportunity for you. One of the people that called me was Tom Shannon, Fire Chief of Scottsdale. And I just want to give a message to Tom Shannon right now because I know he's trying to do a lot of hiring to replace his people. No. Leslie needs to stay with us. just so he's aware. Zach, tell us some about you and your background and where you came from.
Yeah, so long story short, I was born in Santa Rosa, California. My parents moved me here when I was pretty young. I've been back and forth between that area and this area pretty much my whole life. Have always had an interest in the fire service since I was young, and thought about it when I was about 18, right out of high school.
Okay.
And but most everybody told me, you're too young, you're inexperienced, so maybe try something else, do something else, gain some experience, some life experience, and then and then maybe later on down the line you can try to pursue it. So I took what they said for gold, and went to California. I worked for a couple years and came back here and got a job, bought a house, got married, and pursued the fire service pretty much. And didn't go to near the extent that Leslie did, but got my basic certs basically, and tested here 3 times. CAFMA was the only place I wanted to work for. And finally, I think out of sheer pity, you guys finally hired me. So.
Well, I'm going to dispute that because when you tested the first time, we wanted to hire you in that round, but you hadn't scored high enough on the written, and the people that we hired in front of you were actually high-quality candidates as well. Yeah, well, it's all subjective. But, you know, there were some really good people there, but we're like, okay, we want to hire this guy. And then the next time,
I bombed it.
Something happened. Zach, what happened?
Well, I'm gonna say it was definitely the written test. My written score wasn't. I think I got the exact same score as I did the year before on my oral board and my written, but there was just a lot of good applicants, a lot of good hires. I mean, most of them, anyways. You know, in the next round. Yeah.
But the third time was a charm. So one, don't give up when you start trying to get in the fire service, right? There's opportunity if this is really what you want to do. Absolutely. And we knew you were somebody that we wanted to hire because we could see your character just in the first interview that we had. We were trying to find a way the first time you test to bring you on. We just didn't have the funds to do it. And part of it was your story. And I know I'd like to visit your story with you sometime when I can convince you to actually be on the podcast with just me.
Okay. So
that we can spend more time focusing on that, because I was inspired when I heard it. Both your experience that drove your interest in the fire service and then the work ethic throughout your life were just amazing.
Well, thanks, Chief. I appreciate that.
So I think that's something that people would really like to hear. So how long, Leslie, have you been on now?
2.5 years.
Okay. Yeah. Zach?
A little over 1.5 years. It'll be 2 years in September.
So you did better than him on that.
I beat him out.
She's smoking. Yeah.
I'm better looking too.
Which is not hard to do, I don't think.
You know, it's great, and I told you guys one of the reasons that I wanted to have the two of you on the podcast is because when I come to Station 53, and a lot of times it is to come to the studio, I end up here on an 8-shift day when the two of you are working together, and the banter and just the fun relationship between the two of you is outstanding. I also think that you guys are some of the up-and-comers in the organization that have a lot of potential to achieve. Whatever you want, really, because that's up to the person. Where do you want to get, and that's where you're going to get. And so I was hoping that by having the two of you on, maybe some other folks out there considering CAFMA would look at this and say, wow, there's some quality people that work there. Now, the other side of this, and we talked about it earlier, is we have 6 or 7 positions. We are going to have a candidate pool that's more than 6 or 7. And I think you guys agree with this. The fact of the matter is we're not looking for technical ability. We're looking for character. And when we hired the two of you, as well as your counterparts, it was because of your character, right? The technical stuff we can teach you. You already had a lot of it, but it was about character. And so if we have a 30-person candidate pool this time around and we have 6 or 7 positions, but we only have 4 candidates that really fit what this organization means, then we're only going to hire 4 because we have to look long term. You know, what happens if we start hiring the wrong people just to get someone in a seat to fill a spot, right? Where does that leave you?
Right.
So with that in mind, Leslie, when we're considering new firefighter candidates, because these are people that you're going to work with 24 hours in a day, what are some of the characteristics that you're looking for, hoping to find in a new firefighter?
Yeah, I would say a lifelong learner, somebody who is constantly open to change,
Okay.
and somebody who's good at communication. Those
Okay.
are important to me.
Open to learning and good communication. Zach, what are you looking for?
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, I think character is absolutely number one. And I appreciate that you want our input, you know, because these are going to be people that we're going to probably be working with for the next 25 years.
Yeah.
Maybe longer, who knows? So I appreciate that. But as far as some of the things we look for, I'm lucky enough to work for the 1 and 2 Academy.
Okay.
And so we're always keeping our eyes out on the up-and-comers, and there's always a few of them in there.
Right.
The thing that we look for definitely is leadership ability in a way where it's
Okay.
like they don't necessarily beat other people over the head, but they bring people up.
Right.
So an encourager, someone who is not afraid to put their ego aside and is willing to learn, kind of like what Leslie was saying, and then also willing to help others and
Right.
and not worry about how they necessarily look. Work ethic is big, I think, especially for this job.
Yeah.
You know, you could be running calls all night, all day. Some of the hardest work I've ever done is on a structure fire. So you definitely have to work hard,
Right.
and maybe put your physical fitness fairly high up on the list of things you need to do. I would say perseverance and a little bit of mental toughness for sure.
Right.
Like I said, you can be up all night long, and you know, how's your attitude when you're waking up at 2 a.m, 3 a.m,
Right.
running the same calls maybe over and over? You know, are you going to be in a good mood? Are we going to remember that this is still the best job in the world and we have it so much better than so many other people? Or, you know, are you going to complain about every little thing and have a negative outlook on everything?
Right.
I think a positive outlook on life and things in general, I think that's an awesome character trait for
Right.
sure.
Well, and I appreciate you said the way you said that too, because there's something called the morale curve, right? And basically in short, it's expectations. So people, when they initially sign up or they apply and say, I want to be a firefighter. Yeah, we're going to save lives. We're going to break stuff. And it's going to be exciting from the time I get into work until the time I go home. Everything's just going to be one big adrenaline rush. Mm-hmm. And there's certainly days. I mean, when I was on an engine or an ambulance, there were days that was the case.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I remember a time in my career where I ran straight for 72 hours. I slept 6. It was awesome. I went through 3 partners. And one of them injured a part of his body, and we had Polaroid cameras at the time, and so I helped him out with his workers' comp and snapped a picture in the ER. he still doesn't forgive me for that. But that's part of the dynamic of being in the fire station, is that team dynamic,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
You're living and working together for 24 hours. You're eating together, or at least we hope that even if you cook a separate meal because you eat something different, that you're sitting at the table
Sure. Yeah.
together. How have you found that and the time that you guys have been here as far as that team dynamic in the station? You know, and what do you think of that coming from your other backgrounds, your other jobs?
I think it's super important. It's like a second family. So, you know, eating together, doing things together throughout the day, it just kind of builds that camaraderie. Also running difficult calls together also builds camaraderie, but I think that's important.
Absolutely. Yeah, to me, I can honestly say it's everything. You know, people ask me what what do you think is the most important thing about CAFMA? Like, what do you love about CAFMA the most? And before, it was kind of like, it's my hometown, it's my own community, my family lives here, things like that. It's kind of the generic answer, but I can honestly say after being a little over here for a little over a year and a half, it's 100% the people that work here. Yeah. And I love looking at telestaff and looking at who I'm going to work with that day, if I'm roving or if I'm working here. And I love getting on there and going, oh, I get to work with so-and-so today, you know, because you know it's going to be fun. It's like we're working, we take our job seriously, but at the same time, we have fun all day long, you know, and to me, that's everything. And I've been on a few shifts where it's like, you know, you don't know people as well. Right. You know, you're not used to working with them, and it's not quite the same. But once you really build relationships with people, which seems to be so easy to do here in the fire service, it's amazing the connection you have with people. It's like nothing I've ever experienced.
Well, and you can have fun even if you're not running calls the entire day, right? Totally, because structure fires, we get 100 plus a year. There's 365 days. Yeah. That means there's days where you don't have a structure fire, or you're responding to a reported structure fire, but it's a dust devil or a wildland fire. And there's days where it's all medical. Yeah. And some of the medical calls aren't serious. They end up being somebody that just, you know, when somebody calls us, it's their worst day to them. Sure. And I think that's what we need to keep in mind. But there's the other part of our job, which is spending time in the gym. It's cleaning the floors, cleaning the toilets, cooking the meal. You know, all of what we would consider mundane, the business inspections, right? The hydrant testing, all things that are important if you keep that in mind. But a lot of people tend to get in the fire service and they think, I'm going to do all this exciting stuff. Why are you handing me a broom? Yeah. And unless we're on the scene of a car crash and I'm cleaning the road, what do I need this for? There's just the expectation when you come in my mind, the way we want to set it up for folks that would apply for CAFMA is that there's a lot of mundane that's interrupted by intense adrenaline rush for different calls. Yeah, absolutely. And if you keep in mind that, hey, we're here to serve the public, that's our job. And so everybody that calls, we're going to provide them, no matter what they called us for, the highest level of service that we can. And I'm just going to enjoy every one of them that I go on, no matter what it is. I think if you can have that mindset coming in, have that expectation up front that I'm going to do some cool stuff and I'm going to be bored a lot of the time. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Totally. Have you guys found that?
I've been lucky enough to work at fairly busy stations. So, like, especially here at 53, it seems like you get here on shift and the next thing you know, we're cooking dinner. Like, it goes by so fast. But sure, from time to time you do, like, I've experienced that a little bit. But I'll tell you what, it's 1,000 times better than being on a roof in the middle of July or doing concrete in the middle of July or anything like that. Yeah. I mean, if you keep, like we were talking about earlier, if you keep everything in a positive perspective, nothing beats this. Right. Nothing beats it.
Yeah, I think Captain List does a good job with that. Our artist, in-house artist, Damien. Shout out you know, and I think Chief Schuster, Alan Schuster, same thing. When people started to get down in their stations and say, man, this is just boring, they complain about this or that, they're like, get on the engine. And they would drive them around and say, see that person working on the roof over there? Yeah. We're in air conditioning. Yeah. In the cab of the engine. See that person digging the ditch? We're in here. You know, for me, putting on the uniform, I mean, I don't get to do the fun stuff you all get to do every day now. But I feel like I'm in a great place and in a good position because my job is to facilitate for you. That's my only job, is to make sure that you have what you need to do your job to serve the community. And I love it. So even though you're coming into the organization as a firefighter and you say, I want to be a firefighter, this is what I want to do, the fact of the matter is over the years, there's opportunities, lots of opportunities, get involved in other things, whether you move up through the ranks or not. Hazardous materials team, hazmat response, your technical rescue. response. You can get involved in public education. There are just a variety of venues to go.
Absolutely.
To break it up and opportunities. In my career, I never thought that I'd be here or that I'd get to do the things that I get to do and experience. Never once. When I started as a firefighter, I'm like, great. I got a helmet, I have turnout gear, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
And, but I took advantage of opportunities and moved up. And I think when you look at our organization, if you're someone that's applying to work here and you say, well, my goal is to get on the fire department, but I'm looking for a place that can provide opportunities, I think CAFMA has that. If you look at the next 5 to 10 years, we have the potential for 44 retirements. And I know
it's insane.
Just the retirements is crazy, but we're also looking at expansion. I think May of 21 versus May of 20, we were 343 calls for that month more than we were the year before. That's what we're seeing. So for you two, looking at, wow, there's potential here for engineer. You've been here for 2.5 years now, Leslie. What do you think your timeline is looking at promotional opportunities?
Well, we just went through an engineer testing process, which I was ineligible for just due to time on. So the next testing is usually 18 months from that point. So I had planned to do that test in 18 months.
So if you're looking at being an engineer in the next 18 months, what expectations do you have of this organization as you prepare for that? What are you looking for from us?
Just lots of practice, time behind the seat, and I've already went through the Engineers Academy that CAFMA sponsors for us. That's a week long, and I learned a lot during that. I think that really helped me with all of our apparatus that we drive. So that was a really awesome opportunity. So I think that we have all the tools here. It's just utilizing those tools and taking advantage of them.
Yeah, definitely. Zach, what are you looking at?
I feel like I'm kind of right there with Leslie. My hopes are I'll try to take the next test. If it shows up in 18 months, I believe I'll have exactly the amount of time to be able to be eligible to test. And I'll take it, and if I pass, awesome. If not, then I still got the best job in the world. So I figured if it's a testing opportunity, then I'm going to take it, and it's going to be a great learning experience.
So what are your expectations from this organization as you prepare for that?
Man, honestly, I was just thinking about that as she was answering, and I've been super fortunate to be in the position that I am here at 53. Chief Freitag I kind of told him what my goals were with the acting engineer packet. And he did everything he could, along with Captain Birch, Kyle Runo. That's been my crew, all engineer guys, So I let them know, hey, I really want to start hitting the packet. It was even before I was off probation. And every day we were out drilling. Chief Freitag got me into the Engineers Academy with Leslie. So I've had every opportunity that I could ask for. So moving forward, I can't ask for much more than what I've had already, so I'll just keep it up.
So we have support at the crew level for people who want to achieve something, to help provide some of that training and opportunity to get training. We have a fantastic academy, CARTA, which is a great place to train, and multiple opportunities to go through programs there. And I know we just finished that engineer's test, and I don't know if this is public or not, but this is the fire service, so whatever the ranking is on that is already out. I can tell you the person who may be at number 2 on the list spent a year going out to the training academy and just going through repetitions. So I think what that says about a lot of our folks is there's a commitment there and an ability to strive for that improvement, right?
Absolutely.
They took it on themselves and they went out. And our training folks, our training chief and training captain, really spent time with them, working with anybody that wanted to come out, and it paid off in the end. So that's just a little bit of little nugget of information for you from me that, we are going to provide whatever you need as far as resources. But if you take the time and make that commitment, it's amazing, because there were some fantastic scores at the end of the engineer's test. I don't know if they're posted yet or not, but they were really good.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go help out with the skills portion of the engineer's test, and it was fascinating to watch. And just to see those guys, too. I love those guys, and they put so much work in. Like, I'd be out at the 1 and 2 Academy at Carter on Saturdays, and they'd be out there every single Saturday, drilling. And so it was really cool to see that, to see how well they did.
Right.
Especially on test day. As calm as they were, it looked like they've done it a million times.
Well, one of the other things I like about this organization, and I can't take credit for it because it was the chiefs that came before me that really set us up to have a good, solid financial foundation underneath us. But when we look at the equipment that we have here, it gets replaced on a regular basis. I mean, we have some very nice equipment, state-of-the-art things, rotating the engines through, and we've got a fantastic maintenance facility as well.
Absolutely.
So when we look at the resources we have available to us, it's amazing. And the things that Jonah and Tech Services does for our IT, our image trend for EPCR and reporting systems, I think our organization offers a lot from the standpoint of there's a quality place to work. You're going to have quality quarters to stay in, and you're going to work with quality equipment and have access to whatever training you want. And support from the organization and your crew to achieve whatever it is that you want. At least that's what I hope happens. I get to see about this much of everything because of where I am. But I'm hoping that's what's happening. And I see it in the two of you every time I come to 53, right? I see you guys working all the time on the engineer's task book or pumping or cleaning up the station, just taking that pride. Because I think that's the other part of it. Why are we going back to the question, why are you putting the broom in my hand? It's because we have pride in our station and our equipment. If the taxpayers are going to provide us with this stuff, we are going to return the favor by taking care of it.
Absolutely.
And that's what I see from our crews here. Now, we do have some stations. Zach has been pretty fortunate. I think, Leslie, you've been pretty fortunate to be at some busier stations. And then we have some that, well, don't necessarily, they're quality calls when they get them.
Yes.
And it's time and distance. That's why those stations exist. But wow, they can be kind of slow.
Sure.
But again, it goes with expectation. We hope we're at a busy station, but there's going to be times where we're at a station that's slower. And we hope there's a good crew dynamic at that point. So that
I was gonna say,
right.
If you have a good crew, you can work anywhere. It doesn't matter. It's still gonna be an awesome shift. There's so many things you can do. Even at those slower stations, you can still train. You can still talk about a lot of things. Hanging out with guys that you're close to now, guys and girls that you're close to now. Yeah. So as long as you have a good crew, to me, it's like that's the number one thing I look for.
Great. So Leslie, starting with you. If you were going to give someone some advice or encourage them to apply with us, to take advantage of this testing process, what would be some words of encouragement you would share?
Well, I would, first of all, just say don't give up. I mean, sometimes you don't always get it on the first try. Definitely, brush up on interview skills and make sure that you have all of your packet completely filled out.
Okay.
Because if you miss one certification or anything in there, you can be disqualified.
Right.
I definitely like this career. There's nothing like it. I could not imagine myself doing anything else. I love the camaraderie. I love coming to work every day, and that's really important to me.
Right.
I could be having a bad day off of work, and then I come to work, and it just makes everything all better. So it's definitely worth the hard work and commitment and, the blood and sweat and tears that you put into it. So that would be my advice.
And why would they want to apply here?
Oh, so CAFMA, I was really surprised at how much CAFMA offers. Once I really got into the culture here, all of the equipment, like you already said, like we replace everything on a regular basis. I just feel really well taken care of. I feel like we have a great union. We have awesome crew members, like Zach had kind of stated. So 10 stations full time. Gosh, there's so many things. It's hard to roll it off the top of my head, honestly.
No, thank you. Zach?
Oh, but just why we want to work here?
Yeah, well, words of encouragement. What would you tell somebody that wants to prepare for the testing, and then why would they want to come work with you?
Okay, yeah. Words of encouragement. Definitely what Leslie said is don't give up. As I said, I was very stubborn when I was testing because I only wanted CAFMA and I refused to test anywhere else. I would say it'd be good to test other places just to stay fresh, and all those testing opportunities are learning experiences, and you can always test with the department that you really want. I was a knucklehead, so I just kind of was like, no, I refuse to test anywhere else but CAFMA. So, but definitely be persistent and don't give up, and know what you want and keep getting after it. And the only thing you can do is you can work at it. If you don't work at it and you don't get it, you have nothing to complain about. You have to be, Captain Kuykendall told me this once, and it always stuck with me. He said, if you're not studying, someone else is. There's always someone else studying who wants it just as bad, if not more than you do. So you have to prove how bad you want it.
Yeah.
So that always stuck with me. So whenever I wanted to put the book down and I was like, I'm done with studying, and I would remember those words and I'd pick the book back up. Just be persistent, get your face out there as much as possible. Do ride-alongs, do mocks, get to know people. And then, sorry, what was the second half of the question?
Why would they want to come work with you?
Thank you. Okay. I feel like I'm on an oral board.
Yeah. I mean, well, and that question's one that probably, now that they've met you, we have to convince them of.
Yeah, right. I'd say work with me specifically. I have nothing to say there, but to work here, nothing to add there because it's not good. But I would say working here specifically, first and foremost, like I said earlier, it's the people. To me, all the way. The people who work here are some of the most genuine human beings, and the connections you create and the relationships you build are like nothing I've ever experienced. And I truly mean that. Like through the calls that you run, the rough calls, getting up in the middle of the night, just hanging out with each other, getting to know each other because you're here 24 hours at a time. It builds a bond like nothing else. So here, I'd say we are so fortunate because of the people that work here. We really do have awesome people. And then other than that, the area is phenomenal. We have great stations, great apparatus. We have CARTA, which gives us no other excuse but to want to train. Right. I mean, a multi-million-dollar training facility. It's phenomenal. And just the way we're building and going, you can feel the momentum right now, with the hirings, and then 540's been added since I've gotten here, and there's already been an entire hiring class after my hiring class, and I just got here, so it just feels like this organization's going full steam ahead, and it's cool to be a part of.
And 540 being our new 40-hour engine.
Yeah, yes sir.
And if you look around the community and you see the growth, you really recognize the potential. And with the turnover here, you really see opportunity for the future, I think. And for me, having moved here from Missouri and being in this community now for almost 8 years, I would just add that community is a vital part of it, because the people that we serve are some fantastic people. I get to interact with them on a different level than you do. You see them on a bad day or out, somewhere playing with their kids. I see the political side, but what I look at here is that we serve some amazing people from this organization. Absolutely, and Leslie, you said something earlier. I just want to go back to this for a second. When you were talking about, you hadn't really thought necessarily about being a firefighter originally because you hadn't seen a lot of women in the fire service. What would you say to young ladies that are out there today who are looking for a career path, what would you say to them to get them interested, or what would you say about the fire service?
Yeah, well, I grew up playing sports, so it was pretty easy for me. I enjoyed being physically active, and I enjoy learning. And, you know, the fire service has both of those things. I would say don't worry about, you know, if you're potentially smaller than the guys, like you can still pull a lot of weight and surprise a lot of people. And just don't like deter from the opportunity just based off of what you think in your head.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing, because when I was introduced to it, I only thought like 6'4" burly men were the only thing that like walked in the fire service. So yeah, just find a mentor. You can come talk to me if you want. I'm
That's
always
great.
Yeah, my phone's always on, and yeah.
You know, and I would say this. You talked about, you know, you look at the taller guys. I'm only 5'9", but what I've seen in the fire service is you can have a lot of men that don't work out, don't spend the time, and really aren't that great at the job. It takes commitment to do that, and
Absolutely.
I would say for me personally, I know the conditioning you're in, and I watch you work out, or I've seen you work out, so. I would have no hesitation going into a building with you, because I know that if I went down, you'd get me out or die trying.
Yep.
And I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. So this career field is for anybody that wants to serve the community, right? That's committed to being physically fit and who wants to serve. It doesn't matter what race you are, what gender you are. It's really about a caring heart, wanting to take care of other people in the community and spending that time. So I appreciate the two of you coming on today. I know when I sent the email, I was kind of laughing. I'd say laughing to myself, but I was laughing out loud.
Sure you were.
Because I knew the response that I would get. However, I was confident that Leslie would respond back just to put you on the spot.
Oh, yeah, and it worked. It worked.
Absolutely.
I was like, you got to be kidding me, Leslie.
I'm strategic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was smart.
That's how we approach this.
Very smart.
But again, thank you both for coming on. If you're out there and you're considering a career in the fire service, take a look at CAFMA. As Leslie pointed out, 365 square miles in Prescott area. It's a beautiful community to work in. It's a beautiful community to live in. A lot of resources, growing area. Climate's way better than down in the valley.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't get near as hot up here. And we just have some fantastic people that you're going to have the opportunity to work with. So make sure you visit our website, visit our Facebook page, pick up an application, submit it to our Human Resources Department, and we will be testing in July. So between now and then, fill out the packet and be prepared.